we're here today sitting with Chris Wheeler. He is a full-time firefighter paramedic. We're here just to talk about things that we can do, and a little bit about Rise Up and Fight and what we've been doing, you know, as far as boots on the ground and in the trenches. So it's funny, I met Chris his first day in the fire service. He was 18 years old.
Long time ago.
Yeah, dude, that was crazy. And it was a Wednesday night, and I remember it clearly.
It's funny that you remember this, though, because I don't remember this.
There's other stuff that, you know, I block out, and, you know, there's things I do remember, but I do remember that night pretty clearly. Yeah, it was like rain. It was like after 6 o'clock. We were sitting at the table and just kind of talking. And you go, hey, Freeborg, I hear you're a black cloud, you know. And I go, now I'm more like a trauma cloud.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's that? I go, I get traumas. If you work with me, you're going to get a trauma, usually. And then no sooner than 15 minutes, the tones hit.
Yeah.
And we get car versus semi head on with a pregnant woman and trapped, or a pregnant female trapped.
Was that on
14? I was just shaking my head.
Was it on 14 there?
On 14.
Yeah.
And your eyes got all red, you got all happy and excited. And I remember I was just shaking my head, just, you know, cussing to the squad, you know?
Right.
And yeah, that call ended up being, you know,
it
was crazy, or just like you would have thought. You know? But that's the thing. You just never know.
You
know,
You know,
how
this job comes at you fast.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You know, I see. Yeah, you move away.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
And then you come back. Yep. And I see you now, and you're different. Well, we met for breakfast that day.
Yeah.
100% different person, man.
Yeah.
I could see it in your eyes, even too.
Yeah.
It's changed you. The job has changed you.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's a lot of things that happen over time, chemically in the brain, physiology of your brain starts to change too. There's nothing really you can do to stop it. You know, that's the problem. But there's things you can do to kind of try to mitigate it,
right,
and help. You know, and cope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet, Chris, that you look at life through a different lens than most people.
Other than, you know, other first responders, I'd say, yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Talk about me coming on. I think what you're doing is great. We're a pretty underserved population when it comes to, like, mental health, because there's already the stigma, right, that, like, guys want to look weak, you know, don't want to look weak in the engine house. They don't want to talk about this stuff. And, you know, to an extent, I'm almost supportive of it. Like, when you're at work, you know, you got to do what you got to do. You know, you have a job to do. You kind of lost the right to, like, break down, you know, on scenes and stuff. Like, imagine if you needed help and you called 911 and, you know, the fireman showed up and just had a mental breakdown, right? Like, you can't, you're not allowed to do that, you know, and if you can't control that.
You can't call anybody. You're
right. Yeah, and if you can't control that, then you probably need to find something else to do. You know, most guys get filtered out in the first few years of their career when they have those issues. But if you can do this long term, you have to figure out basically how not to do that. But when you're off duty now is what I'm going to talk about, is that's kind of when you need to start figuring out how you are going to process these emotions that you should have processed on these calls. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, what you're doing, what your organization is doing, has personally helped me, first of all. And I'm very grateful for what you've done for me. And you are on a mission to help as many firemen in this area as you can, is my understanding. You're a 501c nonprofit, right? Yeah, so you take tax deductible.
Well, yeah, any donation to Rise Up and Fight Ministries is 100% tax deductible.
Okay, yeah. And I know you're in a few fire departments already. So my goal coming on here is basically, I'm just trying to reach out to as many firemen, as many guys that I know, you know, that are on the job, and say, hey, look, like, there's Rise Up Ministries. This is what they do. This is how they can help you. They've helped me personally. Yeah, it's a good thing you're doing.
Yeah, you know, another thing that we do too is we do a lot of teaching and formal trainings, and we'll go into fire departments. I even bring in experts as well too, and they come in and they have PowerPoints. We try to make the connection between everything, right? The mind, the body, and the spirit. You know, because if you really want to heal, all three of those components are necessary in healing whole. A lot of times, and I try to tell firemen this, you know, a simple conversation fixes like 85% of I would say the people that call me, honestly. They just need to have a good conversation. And that can fix a lot, you know. So one thing I do, and I always put this out there, and I, every station, they have something hanging out. My card, a magnet, whatever. And I tell guys, you just call me. Just text me. We'll talk, I'm a chaplain. The beautiful thing about chaplaincy is that your secret is safe with us. Like there's like a code, of secrecy. And even if a captain was pressing us or a chief, we can't tell. We can't even be deposed in court.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're like constitutionally protected. Interesting. Right? But at the same time, you got to go to the church of shut up. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to keep your mouth closed.
I do have a question for you then. So, to my understanding, your ministry, you have a list of therapists, right? Don't you?
Yeah.
You have several therapists that actually want to deal with firemen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so why don't you talk about that?
A couple things that I would require in a therapist, if I'm going to refer a responder to them, is I want them to be trauma informed. And I know you've probably seen that before, trauma informed therapist, but really what that means is they've been to hell and back. They've been through trauma. They've had to heal trauma. They've walked the walk. So first and foremost, I would only deal with the trauma informed therapist, right? I mean, you want to sit there with Mary Poppins, right?
No.
Who lived this totally sheltered life and drives a Jaguar to her practice,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to work, right?
Not for us, no.
No. So, and the second thing is, they have to understand the culture.
Okay.
And I would say they have to appreciate masculinity, right? So if you're going to have a therapist, that's going to,
right,
that buys into the whole toxic they're not for responders.
Yeah, right.
It's just not.
Yeah.
So what we do is, and we have different resources for all different kinds of things. Yeah, we try to make that connection for the responder too, and we're like an anonymous third party they can go to. They're not going to their captain.
Right. It's not through the city EAP or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
nobody even has to know about it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the problem, too. Yeah. And this is why guys don't talk. Everyone talks about the stigma. Well, a big part of the stigma is nobody wants their business blabbed everywhere.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So nobody talks. Right. No one wants to show emotion because they don't want any gossip.
Right.
They don't, they don't want to hear it. They just want, they want the smoothest ride through their shift as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of guys don't talk, but that's where we come in. You know what I mean? We're not talking to anybody. The most I've ever talked to, like lieutenant or captain or something, about somebody that's struggling is they'll call me and they'll just say, hey, I gave your number to this guy. He'll give me a little backstory. He might call you, he might not.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And that's usually how they come in. And like I said, 85% of them, a simple conversation.
Yeah.
It just fixes so much.
Yeah. So if a guy reaches out to you, like if he's coming in some issues, after he sees this podcast or, your information gets out there, reaches out to you, he can feel pretty confident that not only like his personal issues are safe with you as a chaplain, but that if he does want to attempt therapy, you're going to send him to somebody who's going to want to work with the first responder. I think that would be like, that right there alone is extremely helpful.
100%.
And that's what you have the ability to do.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I always try to make recommendations.
Yeah, right.
That's probably a good word to people I work with. But sometimes, I'll give it to them straight up.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is important.
If they're acting like a butthead, I'll go straight up and say, hey, you got to clean up your act too. Right?
Yeah. And most firemen are going to appreciate that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we don't want to hear the nonsense. We want to hear the truth. We want to hear you straight to the point, and sometimes maybe even you saying that to a guy, helps him out. So. Oh
yeah. I really, when it comes to divorce, I'll do my best to talk a guy off the ledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't pull any punches, man. It's almost like Scared Straight. I don't know. You might be too young to remember that.
No.
There's a program called Scared
Beyond
Straight.
Scared Straight. Yeah.
Yeah, they would take the kids in the prison, and the fathers would scream at them. Like, I almost get to that level when it comes to divorce because I'm really serious about that. I see a lot of guys.
Yeah.
They are making huge critical mistakes in marriage, and not only that, but they feel like justified in doing it, and they think it's okay. But then at the same time, they wonder why their marriage is crumbling, and they're having all these problems. So that's one thing I really harp on.
Yeah.
I also hear some really, really crazy stuff that would blow your mind, dude.
Oh, I believe it.
Confess. Oh my gosh. And a lot of times too, I'll get a lot of problems. Like a guy will get himself into kind of a situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're never good. Which
of course.
is usually
We're always going to call you with good news. Yeah.
But sometimes, it's like, you ever run those EMS calls and you don't really know what to do because it's just so insane.
Yeah.
You're just like, where do I begin? I had that a couple times with a couple firemen. Like, once I heard that, I didn't even know where to start. I was like, oh my God, like, how do I do it? They didn't teach me this in my studies. You know what I mean? Like they didn't. Sometimes it can get heavy too, but that's what we do. My thing, I don't want guys to struggle like I did.
Yeah, and just a caveat of that. So it's free of charge, right? Like so. If a guy gets your information and he wants to reach out to you and he wants to either confide in you or maybe he's like, hey man, I think I need to see somebody. Whatever the case is, or he's just looking for resources or general, I don't want to say advice, but you know what I mean. Just someone to vent to real quick.
100%.
You don't charge anything.
No.
I think that's an important thing.
All our services, our trainings, the fire department, pro bono, everything. And matter of fact, we bring food.
Okay.
We're funded solely on donations. We raise money throughout the year that pays for all this, and there are some people that really, really care. One thing though that has always kind of bothered me. I get a lot of, most of my donations come from fire associations.
Oh, really?
Fire unions, firefighters, and families of firefighters. But at the same time, like, nobody else.
Right.
Like, why, you know what I mean? Why is a fire association or a union using their money that they raise for them?
Right.
I just, that bothers me,
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because I've had some big donations come in too. We're both FDNY firefighters.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, what was with that or what, but somebody out there seen my stuff. So I'm
good.
happy about that because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I've said it before in podcasts, and I always say this in my training. Like at Rise Up and Fight, we want you to know everything we know. And, something that I really, really harp on is cortisol, how the brain changes, why first responders are more prone to suicide. I explain kind of what happens, the physiology behind it, too. And we even kind of get into the spiritual side as well. And I want every responder to know that. I want them to know how bad cortisol is.
Yeah.
I catch so much crap for this. Another mission I have is to get energy drinks out of fire departments, and they're gonna hang me for
good luck with that.
I know.
Good luck with that.
I don't know why. One time on how bad energy drinks are, especially if you have PTSD.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it went viral, and I got so much hate.
Yeah, you're gonna get hate.
Oh man,
I can.
Dude, they were. That. It was like Lord of the Flies, where they're dancing around the cave, they're stabbing them. It was that bad. I was like, holy crap! But I still stand on that one.
Yeah. I mean, we've got white monsters and in our vending machines at work. So.
You can go to Gene City. I tell guys this. And just get a powdered caffeine. Bodybuilders buy it. It's tasteless, odorless. And you can mix it in anything you want.
Yeah.
And you won't even taste it. There's your caffeine. But problem with energy drinks, too, there's so much sugar. Yeah. And then over time, your insulin resistance just goes to crap. And I see a lot of firefighters, and I know you see them, too. They have a pear-shaped body, the diabetic body starting, right? So they're getting slammed with cortisol. They have piss poor diet, piss poor sleep, and they're drinking energy drinks.
Yeah.
And Another thing too, and this is really crazy, but a lot of dispatchers are like type 2 diabetics.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all like develop diabetes over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is being studied. I can't remember where I read this,
Mm-hmm.
but you know. But anyways, energy is so bad. So
Yeah.
we go through. We do a lot of lectures and
Mm-hmm.
also do a lot of public speaking to try to raise money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, we're kind of getting absorbed by these veterans groups now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really, and I'm not a veteran,
Right.
so I never really, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brother's a disabled veteran.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a lot of appreciation for our veterans.
Yeah,
What they do, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, obviously, I'm happy to help. You know?
Right.
But it seems like they're really the fire service. I have to really make a case. You know how firemen are, right?
Yeah.
It'll be like, oh, it's my captain. I'll send you an email in 2 months.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's hard to break in. But the veterans groups, they're just like begging me. They're all like pulling
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna go where the need is,
Mhm.
but there's a big need in the fire service. I'll do
Yeah.
a lecture
Mhm.
and I can identify like 3 or 4 people right off the rip.
Yeah.
I just watch their body language
Mhm.
and I could tell.
Yeah.
It's weird. I can spot them.
Yeah.
Like the guy with the chicken leg. Right? Yeah. He's all hyper vigilant. His legs going a mile a minute.
Yeah.
He's-
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I went down this whole research rabbit hole myself, just about what reaching out for help is, what therapy is, like, you know what I mean? Because I really didn't know anything about it. I was like, you just show up and talk to somebody. Like, I didn't know how much there was to this. You know, I don't want to misquote here with numbers, but basically I found that a majority of therapists don't want to work with first responders at all.
No.
And you know, I don't blame them, because you get your degree in the thing, you're going to get paid the same amount of money whether you deal with just a general adult with anxiety or if you're dealing with a first responder or a soldier who's got all this crap that they got to, unload. You're going to get paid the same either way, so why take on the heavier caseload? You know, I know a few guys who have told me, like, they had to go through multiple therapists, in a year, because it's just like, I mean, we're firemen, we read people all day just like a therapist does, and I'm not obviously looking for the same things, but like, you can just tell when someone actually cares about what you have to say, or they're just taking your money and, dealing with you, basically. So the nice part about what your ministry does is, like, you cut that middleman out. So, like, if a guy wants to come to you for help, you're not going to send them to somebody that is going to be, like, surprised that there's a fireman with PTSD showing up at their door. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be like, okay, like, they actually are going to care. And that's extremely helpful, because, like, for me personally, like, if I went to therapy once and I thought the therapist didn't care, I would just never go back. I'd be like, see, this is why I don't do this, you know what I mean? And I would hate to see guys that try to, like, take that step to try to get help and then have that, bad interaction. And then, because, like, I know me personally, I'm like, I'm done. Like, this isn't for me.
And let me tell you.
You know what I mean? But you cutting that middleman out is extremely helpful. Extremely.
Well, I get really, really frustrated, too, because, first of all, it's like a siege.
Mm-hmm.
To get a guy
Yes.
to even call a therapist.
It took me 10 years.
It's an insane fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get them to actually make the call, and you get them drive down there and sit with the therapist, and then it's bad.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah. Because I would just shut down and be like, this is it.
And that's what happens. And they'll be like, it's not for me, therapy.
Yeah.
And I would hear that.
Yeah.
And, but it's that's why I try to have a good relationship with a couple therapists, and I found them, it was almost like serendipitous in a way.
Yeah,
how all that worked out, but they're good people that care.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, which is because like the big thing that most first responders are gonna have when they go, if they decide, like, taking this step already, like, it took me 10 years. Like, it is not an easy decision to make.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I probably needed to do this for the past
you feel weak.
6 to 8 years of my life. Yeah, and then finally, like, I'm like, all right, like, I'm just going to force myself to do this, right?
Yeah.
A guy finally reaches out for help. You don't want it to be a bad experience, because, like, there are numerous dudes on the job, just like me, who would just be done if it went bad the first time. So it's so important that you are doing what you're doing and cutting that out, so there's not really much of a question. Now, like, is a guy probably still going to go in and be, like, cautious? Like me, myself, I absolutely am. I'm just starting, right? So I'm not I'm not healed. I can't tell you what, therapy is going to do for you, if it's going to be good, if it's going to be bad. Like, I can't answer that. Right. But I can say that, like, in your mind, once you start, you're kind of like, okay, I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where this is going to go, or even if I'm going to stick with it, right? But in your mind as you start, you're like, this is the right thing. I should be doing this. And guys are going to go in, and they're going to test the waters. They're going to see how a therapist reacts. You know what I mean? You're going to do the fireman talk. You're going to tell like some superficial things and see how they react, because let's face it, we have a very different version of reality than most people. Right. Very different version of reality than most people.
Yeah, they're probing for weaknesses.
Yeah, right. And you want to see, like, is this person going to be shocked? Because when you're testing the waters, what you're really doing is being like, is this person going to be shocked when I actually unload some of this stuff? And I know guys who have told me that they've had therapists stop them and be like, oh, I can't deal with this. Like, I need to refer you. You know what I mean? So, like, most guys are going to go in and test that water, knowing that, So for you, once again, going back, going 360 here, right? What you're doing is cutting that out. Like, a guy that you refer to somebody, you can feel pretty confident that person cares and isn't going to, like, start hearing some of this. Most people on this job have been through some pretty bad things, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're not going to be like, oh, like what? You know what I mean? I wasn't expecting this, basically.
Well, what I'm trying to alleviate, right? First of all, it's so hard to get a guy.
It is. It's a difficult decision to make.
Dude, yeah.
It's hard.
I can impossible. So, like, you're literally walking on eggshells the whole time going, oh, I hope they call. I hope,
Yeah.
So, the last thing I want is for them to, I didn't like therapists. Oh, therapists, I have this thing.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that it's seamless, right?
Right.
Because once I can get into one, they're usually people are, they don't know what to make of it yet.
Yeah.
But you get into like 4, then they start to see the value. And I always think it's around the 4th session, it seems like. And then guys will really, they'll start to stick with it. If you could make it 4 sessions, But obviously, if the therapist isn't right for you, then they're not.
Right.
We would have to
find somebody else. But that's the thing, though. So if a guy goes to somebody and it isn't a good fit, you don't just give up on them like, well, I told you to go there. You are going to recommend them to 100%. Somebody else, right? You're going to try to identify what those issues were, like, from his point of view, and then what are you going to do? You're going to recommend him to another therapist, right, that probably maybe won't have those issues?
Yeah.
Am I incorrect? Yes. So that alone is so invaluable than just randomly calling places and trying to get something to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So invaluable.
Right. So. And the whole insurance thing's a nightmare, too.
Exactly.
And all of it. That's what I'm saying. So if you could actually get somebody to make the call. I will do everything in my power to try to push that along.
And look at us this year. I talked to you originally in the spring, and then I just didn't want to do it. And then finally, 6 months later, I did it, right? So, like, you saying that it takes a lot for a guy to make that call. It does. It takes a lot. It took me... I had to eat all my pride to make that call. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I should probably do this,
I would be lying if I said I didn't feel like I was, like, broken or defunct. When you first walk in there, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I think everyone should, like, be a counselor.
Yeah, I mean, so...
In general, I think it's helpful.
My view on it is definitely, it's good. I think that guys should do it. The problem with the fire services, though, is that if you try to force it, it is not going to go over well.
No.
I've been forced into, like, CISDs before at one of my previous employers, and, like, nobody in that room wanted to be there. Like, you bring all the guys in the room that were on this run, and you want them, and you force them to talk. Like, I know for a fact the majority of us were like, now you try to be respectful, because maybe somebody in that room is actually helping them. You know what I mean? But forcing guys to do that isn't the answer. Right. This is one of those things where you just want to make, what you're doing available to them and let them make that decision on their own. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we're fine. You know what I mean? What if you come in and tell you are going to go see, a therapist, every guy is going to be like, oh yeah? Like, I'm not going to say a word. They're going to go in there and not say anything.
And not a lot of firemen don't have PTSD.
And that's another thing.
That's right. Like, a lot of guys are okay.
Yeah, and it's fine.
Yeah, we're really only talking to like 35 to 40%. You know?
Yeah, which is still a huge number though.
Big.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of guys. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not everyone. Guys will retire and be fine.
And just be fine. Yeah. Which is totally fine too.
Right.
You know, but you know, for a guy who's going through something, whether it's just in his personal life, you know, going through something on a job, about to retire, retired, whatever, you never know like when this could hit you. You know, I mean, I've only got 10 years on the job. I've only been doing this 10 years and I'm already like, yeah, I should probably do something about this. Now imagine a guy with 33 years on the job, or a guy who did 33 years and then now he's 7 years retired and he's been removed from it. Because I always hear stories about how like when dudes retire, then it's like once you get that break from like you're not going to work every third day, you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like what did I just do for the past, you know, a third of my life basically?
So, you know, guy, I was in a fire department. He came up to me and says, you know, I went to one of your trainings a year ago. And he said, I just want you to know, like, a few months ago, I started counseling. You know, and then he hugged me. And the guy's 54. Right? So he's starting at 54. You know, finally. And I mean, to me, that was a huge celebration.
That's great. That's great.
You know, a lot of our trauma too comes from childhood. It's a lot. It's a perfect storm of a lot of things. But the job, I mean, you know, there's little simple hacks, you know, so we can teach on sleep, eat right. You know. Exercise. I even have little hacks, you know, to calm down like an adrenaline. You can calm down your show like it's actually a therapist when you see teaches that, and it works. You know, that's what we're doing. And like I said, it's all pro bono. It's all free.
Which is amazing.
Dime.
Which is, it's so
we're open around the clock, 24/7. Just
like you're going to answer the phone. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, the problem is I get a lot of criticism. You know, obviously.
Look, me coming on here, I guarantee I'm going to get backlash. I'm going to get backlash for sitting here. I promise you. There's going to be guys that are going to be saying all sorts of things, but I truly believe in what you're doing, and you've helped me. So this is my way of trying to help you.
I appreciate you, brother, for doing that.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of talk.
It's a stigma,
right?
You know, it's what we came here to talk about too.
Right. And I think people don't really know what I do. Because I can't really tell them.
Right.
Right. You know, I'm not going to put it on Facebook. Oh, I met with, you know, a struggling firefighter today, and you know, he told me X, Y, and Z. I can't do that. So really, no. But you know, I get accused or criticized. Oh, you know, doesn't. But you're my witness. You know, I'm in the trenches.
Yeah, 100%.
Boots on the ground. I talk to now actually firefighters from all over the country. You know, I'll get calls.
Yeah,
and like I said, a lot of times, simple conversation fixes it. But we have all kinds of resources. I'm connected with some really cool nonprofits that do some really cool things too. You know, there's one. It's actually was started by the OSP, and they outfit you on a camping trip. You don't bring anything, just your truck. You pay for nothing. Yeah, they'll take you like in the Appalachian Mountains for a week, and it's all responders. It's, you know, there's a lot of resources out there, and you know, I can also make that connection.
Yeah,
people too.
Yeah.
So we're just here to try to help people.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and that's great. And coming from somebody who's, I don't know if I've ever been really officially diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have PTSD.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I think they're pretty jacked up. So,
yeah. You know, it's helpful because you know, you said making that call is tough. It's tough. When you get to that point where you're like,
well, it took that 54-year-old guy a year to make it. You know.
Yeah. Because you're so conditioned to not do it.
And that's why I don't want to mess with anything when they make that call.
Right.
I want it to be as seamless as possible.
And it's also too, it's good too that person that you're sending them to, I think at least in my short experience with it, I think they understand that they're walking on eggshells too at first. Like when they get in there, like this person will be quick to walk. Yeah. You know, 'cause that's almost firemen are. Like we're not just going to go trust some random person with information about ourselves that we don't know. You know, we're going to be assuming the worst constantly just because it's what we do for a living. Well, you know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, this is what I mean. Cops, firemen, first responders, we're all the same.
You know, the thing with cops, actually EMS too. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone lies, right?
Yeah, right. What do you
so then everyone's lying to you all the time.
Everybody's exaggerating you, lying to you, overplaying what's going on, or underplaying what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so you spend 24 hours every third day trying to figure out what's going on. And you've learned how to read people. I can't tell you what it is. I can just tell. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I understand micro expressions or anything like that. You can just tell. You've won enough calls, you can just tell.
Why? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get a sixth sense.
It's sixth sense, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the times you don't listen to it, you get burned. You know what I mean? Every time you don't listen to it, you're like, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. Yeah, in this line of work. Yeah, right. You know? So, so like, it's, you know, that's great. You know, this has affected me for years now, dude. Years. And like, you know, I don't have flashbacks. I don't have nightmares. I don't see ghosts. None of that. You know, I don't have any of that. So there's points in time where I'm like, maybe I just don't have it. I'm like, I don't know. But in these past probably like month or so, I've done a lot of research on my own, and I started realizing like, whoa, I do have it. Check. You know what I mean? As I read down, you know, what this is and how this works. So it affects you in all sorts of other ways. Like, just because you're not having nightmares, you're not having flashbacks, you're not just, you know, seeing things that aren't there. That's like what the movies portray it as. Right. But it's not necessarily like what it is.
It's in your thought pattern.
Mm-hmm. It's the way that you think about not only the job, but life. Like your personal life. Like, you know, you always have to be accountable for your actions, right? Like, I'm not going to be the guy that says, like, every bad decision I've made in life is because I have PTSD. Like, no, that's not it. Like, I've made bad decisions. I've made good decisions in my life. I'm not blaming it on PTSD. No way. Now, do I think that it played a part? I think so. Yeah, I do. Do I think it played a part in it? Yeah. You know, I'm not a victim. We all know what we signed up to do when we took this job. And the people that don't understand what they signed to do don't last very long. You know what I mean? But, I mean, it changes you as a person. I mean, you remember me when I was 18, and look at me 10 years later now at 28, and you're like, what happened? Yeah, I think that's myself. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know, I think that's myself all the time. Like, what happened? You know, and it's like, well, you went through all these events, you know. Yeah. I can honestly say, like I said, I'm only in the infancy, you know, stages of even, you know, getting treated or whatever. You're like, the longer you let it go, the harder it is when you start. Because, like, you start looking at this, like, when they say, like, hey, write down things that stuck out to you and then come back, and you come back with pages. You're like, oh, this is gonna take a while. But if you handle it when you're young on this job, initially, even if you see someone every 6 months, you know, it's not something you got to do weekly or monthly, you know, then it's like, hey, something comes up, you just call them like, hey, I gotta talk to you, you know, we had a bad run or something. And you just get it handled right there. And as opposed to letting this build up for years and then till you retire with some guys or after you retire, like you can stop a lot of what happens with PTSD, especially when you're young on this job. Yeah. And I really hope that, especially if any young guys like just coming onto this job, like, you know, in their first year or two, watching it or watching your podcast, understands what I'm saying right now. Like, handle it now, because you're going to go through events on this job that are going to change you for the rest of your life. Yes. You're going to see the worst in humanity. You're going to see things that nobody should ever have to see. Nobody should ever have to see. I wouldn't I wouldn't wish some of the things that I've been through on this job on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And you let this build up for so long and you don't do anything about it, your mind is going to handle that stress one way or another. And so what you're going to do is you're going to develop unhealthy coping mechanisms like I have. Right. And now I'm 10 years into this, and I got to figure out how I'm going to break unhealthy coping mechanisms and go into healthy coping mechanisms on top of dealing with this decade of stress that I've built up, you know. And this job will put you in some dark places, man. It'll put you in some dark places. And you don't know what to do. Because it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to call a guy that you work with? Like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, who are you going to talk to? So what you're doing is so great because you are somebody who was a firefighter, was an EMS, who that somebody can call and actually trust you with their information and trust you to not only give them good advice, but point them in the right direction when they're spiraling. because we've all been there. Anybody that's done this job for an extended period of time has been in a spiral before. I know I have, you know, and I fortunately, I've just been able to just myself pull myself out of that. But some guys don't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tom, we got more guys on this job killing themselves than we do dying in the line of duty.
I know, it's terrible.
You know what I mean? We got more guys on this job killing themselves, especially after they retire, than dying in the line of duty. Mm-hmm. Like, at some point, somebody's got to start speaking up for this.
There were 6 here in the 5-county Northeast Ohio area this year to date, 6 that I heard about.
Yeah, it's sad.
And you didn't see it on Facebook with the black badges either. Okay, you know, but yeah, 6 right here in the 5-county area.
Yeah,
this year that I heard about. Someone told me, hey,
yeah,
and it's devastating, and
yeah,
and sometimes it's a young guy.
Yeah, which is
25.
I've seen that.
26.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I've seen young 20s, and you're like, dude,
right?
Like that's just it's so sad. Like a guy with just coming on this job under 2 years is so young, and then he goes home and does something so drastic, and you don't know, like, did this guy reach out to anybody? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I was
it's terrible.
In the watch office with this guy. He was a younger guy. Was at this fire department, and we were just talking about kind of all this stuff. And he goes, I'm going to show you my journal. He goes, I keep a journal of every fire or bad call that I'm on. And he pulls up this computer file, and he does. And if there was like a newspaper article that was attached to that call, like the next day, he had that included.
Oh, no kidding, huh?
But he journaled every call and how he felt on the call, like what happened to, I mean, he said he did it for a lot of reasons. 1, legal reasons. 2, so he can remember. 3, maybe he'll write a book. And
the book thing.
4, but at the same time, he said it helps him heal. And he gets it out. It's kind of like journaling. And I was like, wow, I was really impressed. I wasn't expecting that, and I'm like, wow, I go, can I use that? I'm going to, And he's like, of course. Yeah. But he said it helped him, but it was good. Usually when you get a guy by himself,
they'll open up a little bit. Yeah, right. Because they're not going to do it around their coworkers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here on this podcast talking to you about this, and I wouldn't talk about this at work. You know what I mean? There's no way, So, yeah, and like, it's interesting too, because it, like, for me, it's affected me in so many ways, just changed my brain chemistry, basically. Like, dude, I can't go out in public. Like, I can't go to a sporting event. I can't go to a concert. Dude, I can't even go to a busy bar. Like, I can't do it, man. I get stressed out going to Walmart in Middlefield. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh crap, like I gotta go out and help people. And like, I never knew what it was. I thought I was like, maybe I just don't like people, or I'm like, just don't want to be around people. But like, as I've researched into what this is, I'm like, oh, like every time I'm at, especially with a few of my previous employers, when I'm in a large crowd, like generally things aren't going well. You know what I mean? Like, I'm there on a run, things are not going well. And so my brain has basically identified crowds as danger. You know what I mean? So like, if you took me to a concert tonight, or you take me to a Browns game, like, I'm going to be in fight or flight the whole time. Like, I'm going to be scanning the room. I'm like, what's about to happen? Because when you see the other side of what can happen, you know what I mean? But that's PTSD.
Right. You have the overactive amygdala already, right? So when you go into like a high stimulus situation,
oh, dude,
right?
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on?
Right, that just the amygdala just
just starts firing away.
Yeah, and that's when you get the chemical cascade, and then and that's ultimately over time that chemical cascade of stress hormone, of cortisol especially, is what really erodes your brain, and this is key, and this is something I teach. And I want everybody to know. So cortisol over time thins the front wall of your prefrontal cortex, so the thinking part of your brain. And it's irreversible, just like a cigarette smoker. Their lungs are blackening over time. Just what happens. That wall thins, but that's where your impulse control is. So as that thins, the cortisol just kind of erodes it away and shrinks. You lose your impulse control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get into the problem. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a really severe emotional trigger,
Mm-hmm.
already some sort of addiction,
Mm-hmm.
drinking, whatever that might be,
Mm-hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
it's a big problem in this virus. This is addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's
100%.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
You know what's funny though, not to cut you off,
Yeah.
but like you're just reminding me of this now. Like I always say, like it's almost like the guys that have the most messed up personal lives are like the best firemen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's hilarious, but like
Right.
the guys that like have such like destroyed personal lives are like the guys who want to go to fires with. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Because the
like,
job is the only thing that makes sense in their life.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing else makes sense.
Yeah.
But
like that right there just reminded me of that. Like it's like your impulse control has been,
it just erodes.
erodes,
Yeah.
and then it's like everybody that I know that like their personal life's a disaster. It's like that's the guy I want to go to a fire with. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's hilarious how the two are so opposite of each other,
Right.
but it's so true.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at maybe like risk-taking behavior.
Yeah.
They're probably more apt to take bigger risks.
Mm-hmm.
Their life's a mess, but they're really, and without, this could be another whole series of podcasts, with getting into detail, but a lot of this, you're predisposed to do this job, and your therapist she says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're predisposed as a child, almost subconsciously, try to stick with me on this, to do this job. I remember one time she told me, she goes, you didn't choose the job. The job chose you before you even chose it. And I knew what she meant. And she was right. A lot, because once I really start digging, and again, I'm not a therapist, guys, they'll start opening up, and then you find out that a lot of them had traumatic childhood or another unrelated trauma that's not just, work in the fire service.
Yeah.
Or something, really, really crazy. And everyone has a story. They really do, And people struggle in different ways. And one thing, I always tell people too is you never want to compare traumas.
No, right. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
It could be your first day, or it could be your 33rd year on the job.
Right.
Like, at some point, though, you're going to be like, okay. Like,
the body and the brain is still affected the same way.
I really started researching this probably like a month ago, like the end of November, early December. Like, I was just trying to figure out, like, all right, like, what is really going on? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on in your brain? What is this or whatever? And it was just confirmed the other day. But most of us have what's called CPTSD, which is like cumulative or
Complex.
I'm sorry, complex PTSD. So most firemen have that. So basically what it is that, to my understanding, I'm not obviously professional, but like one single incident that we have that we remember that was bad, if a general like person in like the population saw that one incident, it would be a psychologically defining moment for them. They would be in therapy for years, if not life, because of that one incident, and they would be permanently changed.
Yeah.
Now that's PTSD, that one incident. The CPTSD is that we see that consistently and we normalize it in our brains to the point where it's like I can talk about some of these things that I've lived through, and it's almost like it doesn't even bother you, but like it's not normal for a human to witness these things consistently over a 33-year career or however long you do this job for. No matter how you're doing it, whether you're volunteer, part-time, full-time, like whatever, you're going to see things eventually on this job that nobody should see, and you're probably going to see multiple events of that, right? I just thought that was so interesting because I didn't even know that until I looked it up. Like I said, I started researching this like a month ago or so, trying to figure out like what this was. Now, CPTSD, to my understanding, isn't an actual diagnosis. I don't think actually like it's accepted like in the psychology world or whatever. But when I read into it, I'm like, that seems pretty accurate to me. You know what I mean? Like I read through all the symptoms and was like, I've checked like every box almost,
I've heard it referred to, it's just cumulative stress. Or, I've heard it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with complex PTSD. And actually, they've changed it now. It's PTSI.
Oh, okay.
Injury,
Well, there you go.
because it's less, if you think about disorder, right?
Yeah.
Versus injury.
Yeah.
So
Sounds better.
yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with it, the complex is cumulative over time. This is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and I always use this example. Say you had like a SIDS baby call, right? You shop. You've got a little baby at home, and the mother's crying on the floor. Just bawling her eyes out. Everyone's losing their mind.
Sucks. Yep.
Right, and you got to be the stone cold killer and run your protocol. And no emotion.
Right.
We're gonna try to do everything we can for this kid. And the problem is right now. So you're in the event. The amygdala fires first. Is this danger safe? Do we got a problem or not? That would go into our thinking brain, right? So now we're in the event. The memory of the event is being created. And in our prefrontal cortex, which is our thinking brain, that's our emotional part of our brain, frontal lobe.
Yeah.
And now we're attaching an emotion to that memory of that event that's being created while you're standing in that little environment.
Yeah.
The problem is, right now you have this memory, but you have the wrong emotion attached to it. Okay, yeah, you follow me still? Because you're the stone cold killer. You're just like, whatever, we're going to go stop the rallies and get a burger, right?
Yeah.
Back to the station, That's not the right emotion. Like, as a human, right? If you have a soul, you would be sad.
Yeah.
Especially if you had a kid. That is a normal human reaction in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't be. You're not paid to be sad.
Right.
You didn't go there to cry with the mother.
Right.
Yeah. So what happens, though, over time with these calls, high stressful ones or extremely emotional ones, for really scary ones, we're creating the memory, but we're attaching the improper emotion to it. Now it's getting stored, now you put in this. So guess what? Now we have this whole mess of memories with the wrong emotions attached. Like, it's like almost swirling around in your brain. You have all this like dissonance and distortion now. So what happens, and I always tell people too, like you said, the flashbacks and
I personally don't get that.
Right.
But,
or
I know guys probably do. I
That's
just don't.
one of many symptoms.
Right.
But it's really your thoughts. If you are, and again, I'm not a doctor. I could tell you it's in your thought patterns.
Yeah.
That's where it lies.
Yeah.
And that's something I can help guys with, at least tell them, hey, you're not crazy.
Yeah, because you feel like
thought I was.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Until I went to this retreat, this weekend retreat, and they started talking about all this in detail. And that's, and I was like, hey, I felt relief. Like, boy, I'm not as jacked up as I thought, because I just thought I had all these personality issues. You know what I mean? And like,
I know
I was, the problem. And then, but at the same time too, I was like sad because it's like, well, I am jacked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I remember when I had that big realization, but I did feel better, and a lot of times when I talk to a firefighter, they feel better just after the conversation, because now they know they're not alone. I always say that, and I don't say that to be cheesy, that you are not alone. I put that in my blogs, but it's really true. You're not. There's a lot of people that are going through what, you're going through, this guy's going through, that guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's all the same.
Yeah. And
that's what I'm seeing.
Because it's what it comes down to, though, is it's the same neurochemical reaction.
Right.
So like what I assume whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's the same neurochemical reaction.
Why we don't compare trauma.
Right. And that's the point, is like, and that's why another reason why I want to sit here and be like, hey, look, like if you just started this job, right? You just started doing this. Like you're in your first year, your first 5 years of being fireman or paramedic or both or a cop or whatever. You're still having the same neurochemical reaction as any other person is having, depending on what it is. And it's still going to have the same effects on your brain as another person. Like I can say personally, like when I started therapy, and I still feel like this, it's something that I'm just forcing myself to work through. It's like you feel like a coward. You're like, I'm a coward. I've only been doing this 10 years. Who am I to come in here and talk about
therapy.
You know what? Now I'm in therapy. Like, there's guys that do this whole job. They go their whole careers. They never talk to anybody. Like, who am I? You know what I mean? Like, I think I have it bad. And it's true is that there's guys on this job that have had it way worse than me. Way worse. So who am I to come in here? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that is something that you're going to feel at first, and it's something that you're going to have to work through. It's something that I'm still working through myself, right? Because I still don't feel like I deserve to go, but I know I have to.
Yeah.
And once you make that decision, you know, like you said, you're walking on eggshells trying to make sure that this guy doesn't back up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, like, I'm a perfect example of somebody where if I went somewhere and had a bad time, you'd never hear from me again. You'd never hear from me again.
And that's
you know what I mean? So I'm like, this is exactly why it isn't for
pretty
me.
typical.
And that's why it's so, and I've already made this point multiple times in this podcast, but that's why it's so important with what you're doing, because you are legitimately taking that problem right there that I'm going to say, you know, you never want to include everybody, but I'm going to say pretty much every first responder is going to have those issues when they start, and you can at least alleviate the mind a little bit by being like, hey, these people have been vetted by you. You are a fireman. You understand how firemen think, or first responders think, right? Because we all pretty much think the same.
Yeah.
And that you can actually send somebody to somebody who legitimately cares and isn't gonna. Because I've heard horror stories, dude. I've heard horror stories.
I'll tell
You know what I mean? Like, some of these stories I hear some of these guys tell me about, like, some of these people that they saw at first, I'm like, there's no way I would ever go back. And so, like, I don't want to see a guy who thinks he's by himself,
Right.
tries to do this on his own, has a bad time, and then never gets the help that he needs when what you're doing is right here in front of him. And you're saying, like, even if I send you to the first person and it doesn't work the way you want it to, I will make sure I get you to somebody where it works.
100%.
And that is invaluable.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that you're doing that is just insane. Like, it's so, and you're not even charging guys.
Right.
You're just like, call me. Here's my personal cell phone number. Call me, text me, any time of day. There's not many people out here that do that. Like,
Right.
I don't know anybody else in this area that's doing that. And that's why I want to make sure, you know, I get your information out to guys. And that's why I wanted to come on this podcast, was to be like, you are, and it's completely confidential.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I reached out to you completely on my own. Now, obviously, guys are going to know that, you know, I'm going,
Right.
you know, I'm doing this, but, like, I'm doing this for the benefit of everybody else, or at least I'm trying to.
Yeah, which I really appreciate.
You know, but, like,
I mean, that's,
you know, if a guy's spiraling, and I've been in a spiral where I had nobody to talk to, and it never goes to a good place. But now they can trust the fact that, like, it's easier because you're a fireman too. You know what I mean? Like, if a guy calls you, he understands, like, you're not just a chaplain, but you were a firefighter for, how long were you a firefighter for? How many years?
20 years.
20 years. You were a firefighter for 20 years. So you understand how we think. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just calling a random, like, church pastor or something, like, asking for help. You're calling somebody who understands the fire service and understands, like, when we talk about things in a blunt way or in a certain type of light,
Right.
you understand that. And the longer you put it off, man, I'm just saying, like, the worse it's going to be. I've only been doing this 10 years, and I'm looking at this mountain of things that I'm like, oh,
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Like, this is going to take some work. Like, this is going to take a while, you
And
know?
you-
But if you handle it early, it's better. But if you are someone like me who has a massive buildup of events that they've lived through that nobody should have to see and never dealt with it, it's going to be a lot to take on at first. So another thing that you'll do is make sure that, like, hey, like, you keep going back, right? Like, you address, you know, you keep me, you're like, hey, if your therapist wants to see you every 2 weeks, you really should go, and these are the reasons why. But you don't, like, talk down to a guy.
No.
Like, you level with them, and you level out, right? Because at first it's like, I was like, no, I'm just gonna go every month. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? You're like, listen, like, just go every 2, you know what I mean? But you leveled with me. It wasn't like a lecture, which is important because you understand firemen, because you were a fireman.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what your ministry does, and it's amazing what you're doing, and people need to hear about this. People need to hear about this.
Yeah, the thing is, I can't, like, talk about it in detail.
Right, but that's why I'm
here.
here.
And I really,
I'm telling you my personal experience.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just been like, what you're doing is you know, it's amazing. PTSD is rampant through this job. The more of my own personal research that I've done on what it is, the more I go to work and see, like, yep. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not judging guys. Like, no, I'm like, it's none of my business, but, like, you can tell because you start reading the, like you said, when you go into a training, you know the symptoms, and you just start looking around, and you're like, we all have it. We all have it. Like, literally, almost we all have it. Like, you know, like I said, you never want to include everybody into one thing, but, like, yeah. Like, I look around and I'm like, yeah, we've all got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's important, man, because this is something that's not well addressed in this job.
It's not.
It's not well addressed in this job.
A lot of guys know they'll go in this job that they might have to sacrifice their life, But what they're not told, a lot of times they end up in the process sacrificing their families, their brain, right? Their body. Like, nobody ever tells you that, right? Like,
no, they don't. No, they don't.
Right?
Nope.
Even in EMS, like, no one tells you how terrible EMS is.
Oh my God,
it's like the worst thing ever.
Going up and down the road all day and that gets old. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and dealing with just gross, nasty, Yeah. But anyways, but it was never really like, and I found this the more guys that I talk to, right? Like, if a call is bothering them, it's not so much like, oh, we saw this evisceration and whatever, and I can't get it out of my head. No, you know what that would really be? Would be, I talked to a guy on a call like that, and it would be, I was on this call, I had this evisceration, and I just can't believe that this woman's boyfriend would do that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's usually right. That's where it is.
That's so perfect because like
I don't care that I see intestines.
No.
But it really bothers me that this
Mm-hmm.
boyfriend got drunk.
Yeah.
And he gutted his girlfriend like a pig.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So it's and I'm not only shocked people by saying it just like that, but I'm a fireman, you're a fireman, you know what I'm talking about, right? But the malevolence in the human heart, the evil that you see in people, that's hard to handle. So then obviously over time your world just you start looking at it through like a darker lens.
Right.
Yeah,
it's almost like you can't believe that humans would do that to each other.
Right.
Like most of the runs, like I'm not here to tell war stories or go into detail. I'm here to promote your brand. But like most of the runs, you just hit the nail on the head. And I think you're going to hit the nail on the head with a lot of guys on this job by saying that, because most of the things that bother me are like, I can't believe humans just did that to each other.
Right.
Like extreme amount of violence against children, extreme amount of violence against females, against pregnant females.
People,
like you're just like, you know what I mean? You're just like, I can't believe that people would do this to each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is insane. Like, it's crazy. That is the most perfect thing I've heard. Like, it's not, I mean, seeing it sucks, trust me. Like, seeing some of these events suck, but it's also like the motive almost behind it. Like, why? Like, why did you do this to this person? Like, it's insane.
Well, from a spiritual side of things, they'll tell you that it's just evil.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no other explanation, right?
Like, it's just evil.
Some things are just evil.
Yeah.
You can't explain it. Why, like you said, anyone would do that. It's just evil. Right?
Yeah.
And that's just, and when you look at evil square in the eyes, it changes you.
Yeah, 100%.
It does. And my worst calls, it was never, I've seen some pretty, crazy, like,
we've all been, anybody that's watching this podcast as a fireman has been through something that's like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, or like I would say, like, oh, that's gonna leave a mark. You know what I mean? Like,
But then, it's just when you see the really jacked up stuff people do to each other. That's always.
And then there's like so many other factors, right? And I kind of want to get into this before we end. There's so many other factors because like you still have a life to live. Like you still gotta like deal with your own personal life, and this bleeds over into every part of your life though. Eventually, not at first, but over a series of time, and you are constantly exposed to things like this. It bleeds over into every part of you.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like it bleeds over into your personal life. It bleeds over to your relationships. It bleeds over to your friendships. It bleeds over to your relationships with your coworkers. It bleeds over to your relationships with your family. Like it literally ends up affecting every part of your life. It literally controls. You start the impulse control thing. Like you start making irrational. You can start making irrational decisions. And I don't think a lot of guys realize that's like I said. You still have to be accountable for your actions. Like, I'm not saying, like, you can just be like, oh, I have PTSD, so I did X, Y, Z. What I'm saying, though, is that it starts to change the way your brain even just perceives reality.
Totally.
You know what I mean? The more I've researched this on my own now, I've been like, whoa. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is insane.
After a while, the brain has a hard time distinguishing danger and safe.
Yes.
And the difference between.
Mm-hmm.
And it just turns into all danger.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
like, before you, like, let me just tell you a story. All right.
yeah.
So I went, like, I had basically the whole month of July off earlier this year, right? I taught this class I normally teach in the summer, and then, I went to Charleston, saw some old friends, went to the Bahamas. Like, it was great. Like vacation didn't work for a month. Dude, I wasn't relaxed once.
Right.
Like, I wasn't relaxed through the whole vacation, like the whole month that I had off. I wasn't even anywhere near having to go on call. Like, I was in a different state, in a different country at one point, And I didn't relax the whole time. I couldn't relax, man. I was in, not like fight or flight, but like you're just on edge. You're just like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it's crazy because that's what that is.
You're
that's PTSD.
Now.
Yeah. It doesn't know how to relax.
Yeah.
It never relaxes.
Never.
And it's crazy.
I mean, I show people this and it blows their mind. Like, this is my hand, relax, my left hand. This is my right hand, relax. You see the difference? You don't? Look.
Oh, I see right there. Yeah. Okay.
This, I cannot.
You can't. Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's constantly tense. It has been for years.
Yeah.
I'll hold something usually. I don't know. You might be too young to remember Bob Dole when he was running for president. No. But he always held a pen, but he was a war veteran. He had, CPTSD. And he would hold this pen and Saturday Night Live, they'd always make fun of him.
Yeah, of course.
So he always had his pen, Bob Dole, and he'd be talking. But I know why he held that pen.
Right.
Because that's,
Yeah.
After a while, it physically changes you. First mentally, and then physically.
Yeah.
And it just
become very blunt.
Yeah.
Because then you add in, not only do you have life stressors, but then you start going through burnout, which I've been through severe burnout on this job. I'm a lot better than where I was before, a lot better, ironically, which I still have ways to go to try to not, be as burned out or whatever. But yeah, especially for guys that are going to watch us that work in busy systems, the average lifespan of an urban paramedic is less than 7 years, unless they get promoted or go do something else.
Right.
Or, they go to public education or whatever, you know what I mean?
It's a big meat grinder.
It's a meat grinder is what it is. And if you burn out, and I've been through severe burnout where now that I'm not fixed. I've already said that. I'm not fixed. I still have my moments in my days just like everybody else on this job. But when you go through that meat grinder and then you get out of it, and now I reflect on it, I'm like, dude, I was just miserable. You know what I mean? Oh my God.
One of our directors at Rise Up and Fight, he did Mecklenburg County.
North Carolina? Yeah.
Yeah, EMS. And that burned him out.
Yeah, it's a busy place, man.
Fast in a hurry,
Yeah. And that's that goes back to why I'm telling people, if you're new on this job, I'm not going to say you have to go to therapy because I don't want to force anything on anybody because it won't be well received. But you should probably talk to somebody every 6 months. Just a generic, hey, I'm good, see ya. You know what I mean? You don't have to tell them about your personal life. You don't have to tell them about this or that. A therapist can't force you to tell them anything. You know what I mean? And the people that you're going to send people to aren't going to force you to talk about a certain part of your life that you don't want to. You probably should if you're young on this job. Because when something happens, now you already have that avenue of, I should probably bring this up and process this, because processing it takes a long time.
Right.
I mean, it takes a long time.
And I remember when I was a young fireman, and we had really bad call. And I would be ruminating on it for a week or two. And it seemed, and I say seemed, like everyone else, just fine, business as usual.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I would be thinking, wow, why am I, ruminating on this? I can't,
right.
I can't drop it. And everyone else has, and then now we get into the, and this is, I always tell people, PTSD lies to you. Okay. And this is one of the lies. So then you get into the self-deprecating, line of thinking, and you're like, something's wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm defunct.
Yeah.
And then it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. So I tell people a lot of times, and I've written some blogs even, you know, about the various like unhealthy thought patterns that come with PTSD.
Yeah, and there's a lot of
Right? Oh yeah. And there's a lot of, you know, and again, I would never say self-diagnose yourself or would I diagnose, but like go through those and you'll see, whoa, I do that.
That's what happened to me in this past like month of my life. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, I do that, you know?
And a lot of guys don't, you know, they don't think there's really any harm in it, but over time, there is. It's like, you know, I could go out with you tonight and have a cigarette. Is it going to kill me? No. The cigarettes cause lung cancer, of course. Like, you know, it's
one
like,
is
kill me. One.
cumulative. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Now,
right.
20, 30 years of it.
You're going to be like, how do you get lung?
Right. Yeah. You know, I always talk about prediction error. This is one of these thought patterns that comes along with PTSD. You know, where we make up stories in our head that haven't happened yet. Right? And it's the brain trying to protect itself. Right? Because the brain always has a natural tendency to try to protect itself. So, and it can boil down to something as simple as this. And I use this as an example. You know, when you're going on an EMS run to a house that you go to normally, or maybe not, but you tell yourself in your brain, I just know this call is going to go like this. It's going to be this way. I just know it. I just know it. But you really don't. Honestly, no one can really predict the future. Right? You don't know. You have no idea how that call's going to go. Right. But in your mind, right, you're convinced, hell bent. It's going to go like this, right? Prediction error. We do that a lot in our lives, especially with PTSD brains, with everything, right? We try to predict outcomes. Yeah. Right. So that we can feel safe.
Right. Because you're basically internalizing a reaction. Like, you know how you're going to react.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's in the thoughts. It's in the thoughts. Yeah. You know, a guy might have flashbacks. A guy might have nightmares. You know, a guy might not have any of that. But where they're struggling and suffering isn't in the 5-minute flashback they had or the nightmare while they're sleeping. It's in their thought patterns.
Yeah.
And it's those thought patterns that are beating them up. And that PTSD that is telling them lie. You know, I always say it lies to you.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It tells you, you know, good people are bad. It sometimes can tell you that, you know, a safe situation is dangerous and a dangerous situation is
like
safe.
when you're on vacation. Yeah.
Right?
You can't relax. Yeah.
It might tell you that, you know, it's a good idea to take your life. Right? It lies. Everything about it lies. Right? And it's in the thought patterns. And, you know, again, I have no problem. We have formal PowerPoints. You know, I bring in a clinician. I also bring in a wellness expert. And we do these formal trainings as well. And another thing that we do at Rise Up, like peer support initiatives, you know, with help and setting up an in-house peer support team. That's something I fiercely advocate for. Yeah. Hey, you know, it keeps a lot of the department business in the department, you know, and I think there's something to be said for that, number one. Number two, you know, guys are probably more likely to be vocal
for sure.
as well. You know, and three, you know, if you could have some trained people, a lot of departments are doing this now. They're getting really proactive with it, and I applaud them all, and I think it's great. Yeah. And like you were talking about, you know, earlier, you had mentioned, which was great, you know, if you could talk about it now, if, you know, the sooner that we can, you know, we can deal with this now, the better, right? You know, you got somebody in-house that can come right down.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. And I mean, like,
right? And
that could be something that you work through the unions or whatever. Because I know, like, a lot of unions will try to get involved. Like, hey, we want this to be our guy. Yeah, you know what I mean? But that's great. Yeah.
If
what you're doing, what your organization is doing, is valuable. I think departments need to hear about this. I hope that this podcast gets the word out about, you know, what you're doing. I'm going to try to get as many people as I can to hopefully watch this. Hopefully they agree with what we're talking about, and we'll spread the word. Because, man, nobody's doing this. Well, you know what I mean? Like,
there's around here, there are people that there's some, I call them angels, you know, and they're with, you know, city and state services. They work with people, and they're just amazing humans. As far as, you know, there's a cop I work with. He's retired Cleveland, and he does what I do. He focuses more on police.
Yeah, right.
Obviously. But we actually have a couple, we have a joint training on marriage and divorce that we do together. It's really impactful, you know, and we're both divorced, both have stories. And he has a lot to say on that subject. And I got to tell you, this guy, he has saved so many responder marriages. And I mean, I can say that with confidence. Like, if he wasn't there and he didn't sit down, he has saved failing responder marriages, this guy, too. So if anyone is, you know, obviously, if you ever run into any guy and he's, you know, on the brink of divorce or in the drain in their relationship, you know, send him my way. I'll put him in touch with Cliff, you know.
Absolutely.
Cliff will get him straight. You know, Cliff, again, he doesn't pull any punches either.
Right.
You know.
Well, what does this go back to, once again? The resources that your ministry has. So, like, maybe a guy doesn't have PTSD issues, but he's having,
addiction. I get a lot of that.
Or marriage issues, right? You have the resources there to help this individual get helped. You know what I mean? Which is, once again, it's so important. And the fact that you're a 501c and you're not charging for this, you're just taking donations, is amazing. Because a lot of places probably would charge. I mean, I don't know how this works, but, like, I feel like a lot of places would try to charge departments and stuff.
Well, you know what? Yeah.
You know, which I don't blame them, but at the same time, that's why I want people to get the word out about what you're doing.
Free. I don't want. I don't want to give them any out. I don't want anyone to say no.
Right.
I had a call. This was a couple of years ago. This lady from a county south of here called me, and she was like the director of the Board of Health for the county. She said, yeah, I saw what you're doing, and I heard about you, and you know, we were starting to talk and stuff. And she goes, I want to tell you, I'm going to pass your name along to X, Y, and Z for X, Y, and Z, because I love that you're doing this pro bono. I go, what do you need? And then in my mind, I'm thinking, is it everybody? Why would you charge for this? How could you? You know? She goes, well, there's people doing what you're doing. And they're saying they're consultants, and they're charging like $5,000 to come in and do training and help set up a peer support team. And I couldn't believe that when I heard that. I was like, I don't know. I just don't feel right. I can't.
Which is amazing.
Because it doesn't.
Departments that see this now, like, you're going to get $5,000 worth of training for free practically. You know, which is...
And some take me up on it, and some don't. You know,
and not every department's going to want to do this.
Right.
But I know there's some that will. And the more, you know, the better. And people need to hear about what you're doing. They do.
I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And telling everybody. You know.
Thanks for having me.
Sometimes I wonder if people don't believe me.
No.
They'll be like, what is he doing? You know, I had one of my directors on my board say, you know, maybe you should keep a log every day. And just write down, you know, whatever you do for Rise Up. And I'm thinking, maybe I should, just to justify. Because people, I'm kind of like last night, I got home at 8:00. I had an event. I had to say prayer. You know, it's nonstop. But it's my passion. And I'll do it till I take my last breath.
And that's amazing. And that's why I think people need to hear about this. What you're doing is good. It's Rise Up Ministries, right?
Right. Rise Up and Fight.
Rise Up and Fight Ministries. You got Facebook.
riseupfight.org is how we're listed on Facebook.
Okay. Instagram. I know I follow your page.
We're on Instagram.
And YouTube, where this is probably going to air.
YouTube.
And then obviously Facebook. Man, what you're doing is great. You personally helped me, and this is, I'm not good at taking favors, so this is my way of trying to help, get the business out. I appreciate you, bro. Absolutely.